The use of keyframes leads us naturally to the next part of our lesson, where we create animations using keyframes and tweening. In traditional animation of the Walt Disney variety, lead animators would create what are called keyframes. These keyframes are the critical parts of the animation, typically the cells where a specific action begins or ends. This storyboard of sorts was then passed on to other animators who created the frames that go in between these keyframes. This filling in of the intervening frames is called tweening, and Director uses a similar method in its animation. Let's demonstrate. First, let's select and delete our previous animation created with the real-time recording method by selecting one sprite at the beginning, holding down the Shift key and selecting the last sprite and clicking Delete twice. Delete, delete. Now tweening works best with fairly large sprite spans. So let's switch back to the default sprite span of 28 rather than the 1 which we currently have. Do you remember how we did that? Well, if you recall, we changed the default sprite span by selecting Sprite Preferences under the File menu. File, Preferences, Sprite. Under Sprite Span, or Sprite Duration, we enter 28. We click OK. And now, when we add a sprite to our score, it will take up 28 frames rather than the 1 which it had previously. Let's create the animation for our ping pong ball using the tweening method. We begin, as always, by moving the playback head to the spot in the score where we want our animation to begin. Just drag it to the start. We then drag our ball cast member onto the stage at the spot where general spot where we want our animation to begin. We don't have to be too precise right now. Okay. Notice that this cast member now appears in the score as a sprite with a span of 28 frames because we changed our default sprite span. Now, by default, the first frame in our score is a keyframe. We select this first keyframe in the score just by clicking on it, and then move the ball sprite on the stage to the spot where we want our animation to begin. Say, here. We then select the last frame in our sprite span and move the ball sprite to the spot on the stage where we want our animation to end. Say, above the net. This makes the last frame a keyframe, as you can see by the circle that now appears in that cell. Director automatically positions the sprites in the frames in between these two keyframes, as you can see by dragging the playback head back and forth. This is called tweening. Let's play our movie to see the animation we created. Rewind, play. Pretty cool, eh?